So my parents were married, had my sister, got divorced. 4 years later, got remarried, had me, and then lo and behold, a few years later, then my parents got divorced. It was difficult, it was challenging being brought up in a single parent with my mom and my dad. I remember them fighting, and it was just a very challenging time. And as I grew up, it was hard. My mom would leave us at home a lot, and my mom would drink a lot, and my dad had his lifestyle and his girlfriends. So when you're in that environment, then unfortunately you're not looked after, and abuse happens, whether it's through friends or through relatives. And it's something that you just don't talk about. My parents, both of them equally taken us to clubs, and at that time the child could drink as long as your parent was within a certain vicinity. And I had a really fast lifestyle, my sister and I. My dad was a millionaire, at that time, and my mom was the one struggling, having to work 2 and 3 jobs. So it was not even, the lifestyles. And so it was difficult, and I didn't understand, how my dad and my mom's relationship didn't work out. I remember, of course, being very emotional, feeling very lonely, many times trying to commit suicide. I don't know if I really understood what it meant, but I was so unhappy. But I never feel like I had like a relationship to where I had peace and comfort and understanding that would come later. I remember meeting my first boyfriend and my first love, and he was older than me, and just really, what I could perceive as love at that time. It was nice, but it wasn't. It was what I thought was okay. He was very possessive, he was very jealous. He never hurt me in any way, but not physically, but he was very controlling, and just small things, like, you shouldn't have ketchup, you shouldn't have ketchup with everything. You need to taste your food, which, okay, it's not a big thing, but little things like that. And you shouldn't wear makeup, and you shouldn't do this. And by the time I knew it, I wasn't doing a lot of things that I like to do. And I kind of lost my identity just a little bit. I found out that he was dating someone else. And that was very, very challenging for me. He no longer wanted to be with me. And I know, I was like, what? What happened to all the promises? And that's when I really, really, really lost myself. It really shook my world. And I remember my mom saying, all men are the same, because of my dad, what he had done to her. And so that was my mentality. And I said, wow, then if all men are the same, then what hope do I have to have a future relationship with anyone? And so at that moment, I said, well, you know what? No one's ever gonna hurt me again. No one will ever hurt me. I started going out and just trying to find myself, and drinking and going to clubs and smoking and doing drugs, doing a lot of things, that being very promiscuous, things that were not me. But I guess I had to go through those things. I didn't have any stability, in my life. And so I just progressively got worse. I got worse to the point that I left the city. I didn't want to, be with my family. I just wanted to leave, and I left. Of course, my family were like, how could you do that? And where are you? Just come back. And my sister was my voice of reasoning. She was like, just come home. And it was her tenderness that drew me back. She's like, just come home, it's okay, we're not gonna ask you anything, just come home. Because I would call them once a week. I didn't tell them where I was, where I had moved. I didn't even give them my phone number. And I remember just hearing a voice, not an audible voice, but something within me just say, get your things and go. Just leave, like go back home. And I was like, okay, that's all it took, like, okay, I'm leaving. Came back home, and a few, it wasn't the same, everything wasn't great, but I started to say, I really, something's gotta change. Okay, I'm out of that environment, I'm back home, I'm trying to be a good girl, but still something was missing. And it wasn't more than just 2 weeks. And I remember my dad, that dad of mine, calling and just saying, look, I know I can't help you. He says, but if you want, there's this church, go to this church, they've been praying for you. They'll welcome you. You can just go and just see what happens. I said, okay. And that night, it's like, okay, do I go to church? And I'm getting phone calls, come over here, we have a party. And I remember saying, you know what? Why not go to church? If I don't like it, nothing happens, I'll just go to the party. That was my mentality. And I remember going and sitting at the back row. And I'm like, okay, I'm here, whatever. I've seen, that God does miracles on people. The pastor prays for, lays hands on them or whatever, prays for them, and then their life's never the same, and then they're fine. I'll be fine, I'll be fixed. Whatever's wrong with me, I'll be fixed. And I remember them having like an altar call, and I said, well, I guess I'll go to the front. I'm here. Dad says they've been praying for me, but so far no one's even acknowledged me. And I go to the front, and the pastor prays for everybody but me. And I'm like, what the heck? It's like, oh well, let me go back. And I just said, you know what? No, something's got to change. I'm tired. So I remember going to my seat, and I remember just beginning to pray within myself, just a silent prayer. And I remember saying, Lord, I hear that you do miracles for people. And I'm just wondering, if you have a miracle, if you can change me, if you can help me, if you can really, really help me, if you're real, then I'm asking you to change me, to heal me, to make me new. But if not, then please just kill me now, because I don't want to live anymore. I cannot continue living like this because my life's a mess. And as soon as I finished that silent prayer that no one could know what I was praying, no one could know my heart, the pastor's wife, because she was like a few seats down, she reaches over and she says, would you like to go pray at the altar? And I looked at her and was like, yes. And I knew that was God saying, I heard you. I heard you. The next thing I know, the whole church is empty. Like from a full church, I'm saying like maybe 150 people, maybe two, to nobody. And I'm sitting in the back where I had started, and I'm by myself in like this chair, and I'm like, what happened? But I remember getting into my car, and I remember my life never being the same, because I felt different. I knew something had happened. And here's this God that accepted me the way that I was, didn't judge me, didn't expect anything of me, just loved me. And all I had to do was ask. And here, this one simple prayer and surrender changed my whole life, and it was a miracle. And so I just said, well, Lord, the only way I know how to thank you for doing this for me, for transforming me, is by serving you. And thus began my servitude unto the Lord. God began to restore me, and I began to realize, Lord, it's okay. There is forgiveness with you. There is love. There is an understanding. I get it. And it was my mistake, but I had to go through it. And it made me a better person to this day.